Hello everyone, Tmmgamer here, and today I have the pleasure of bringing you episode 3 of my Sunday Talk series, where I sit down and talk about any topic really in current affairs or anything. Today is going to be the first time I talk about a gaming related topic, and what I've plumped for today is the age-old battle between the two Call of Duty developers. Now, most of you will know that Call of Duty obviously releases a game every year, but it has two I wouldn't say competing, I'd say supporting game developers, Treyarch and Infinity Ward, that release games on a 2-year cycle. So whilst every game comes out every year, each game developer has 2 years to work on a new game. Now, I think it's quite a good system, just initially, because a year to make a new game is very, very difficult, especially a modern game, which requires so much work on the graphics and the level design and all that sort of stuff. So having each game developer spend 2 years on a game really is a good idea. However, there are several things that each independent game developer does significantly better than the other game developer. So there is a question whether A, they should merge, or B, whether Activision should just pick one to release a game every 2 years instead of having a game every year. So what I'm going to do in this Sunday Talk is sit down and debate what I think, who I think is the best games developer. Right, let's get pretty much straight into this. I've chosen several areas of discussion to compare the two major game developers, and I'm just going to run through these very quickly first. The main ones I went for in the end is the story mode, weapon balance, perk balance, maps, innovation, post-launch support, and extras. Now, I'm not saying this covers everything, but it covers the vast majority of topics that I think are important, whilst enabling me to talk to you about them in under about an hour. So that was what I've done that for. So let's start off with story mode. Now, story mode is pretty self-explanatory. It is just a single-player experience in the Infinity Ward and Treyarch games. Now, for this one, I'm going to start with Infinity Ward, because Infinity Ward really did set the standard for single-player modes in Call of Duty. I mean, you just go back to the COD 4 single-player mode. You had some of the best missions in first-person shooter history in that game, and I'm not just using that to exaggerate. I'm being deadly serious. The sniping mission in Chernobyl, when you play as a young Captain Price with Captain Macmillan, and you have to infiltrate your way in, and then for the second part, you have to fight your way out to the helicopter extraction in the funfair. That is a fantastic mission. It's a brilliant mission. It's, a lot better than I was expecting from a game of COD 4's age, because COD 4's quite an old game now, and when you go back and play that mission, it's still nearly perfect, and that is the test of a really good mission. Not just being enjoying it once, but going back to play it several times and enjoying it a lot. Now, the same really was carried on with Modern Warfare 2. I mean, Modern Warfare 2 was another really, really good campaign. The ending as well, I really did like the ending. Shepard going rogue and you hunting him down with Price and pulling the throwing knife from your body to take him down right at the death. That was a fantastic, fantastic campaign too. However, unfortunately, in Modern Warfare 3, I think they went a little bit ridiculous. And I think they ran a little bit out of ideas, because you just had some fairly insane chases going on, through the underground, and just, I think they went a little bit over the top. And they definitely went over the top in the ending. Because in my opinion, it was just a little bit too Hollywood for me. It was a little bit too unbelievable. Like, for example, when Price stabs Makarov in the helicopter straight through the heart, and the helicopter subsequently crashes, and yet Makarov emerges as if he's had nothing done to him at all. It was just stuff like that. And right at the end as well, when Price just gets out his cigar and starts smoking, it's just so melodramatic, it's so cheesy. It's something you'd expect to see on a B-list Australian soap, not on a proper game storyline, and I was a little bit disappointed with that, but overall, Infinity Ward have done a really good job. Now, Treyarch have also done pretty decent story modes. I mean, back in World at War was the most challenging story mode to do, especially on Veteran. I mean, it was just Heart of the Reich, I think the level was, right at the end. To try and do that on Veteran, it was so tough. So just for the difficulty challenge alone, Treyarch scores pretty high on that one. However, on Black Ops, I think they let the ball down a little bit, because they didn't really choose a storyline for Black Ops. They chose a lot of interlinking events, and I'll explain what I mean. For example, in Modern Warfare 2, in Modern Warfare 3, in COD 4, in World at War, they chose storylines around one or two major central characters, but in a short space of time, like in a year or 2 years. In Black Ops, they seem to just fly around the world so much and flick with all these different characters. You never really got connected with them as you did with Soap, for example, in COD 4 or Modern Warfare 2 or anything like that. So I think Black Ops was just a little bit too hectic. It flew around a little bit too much. There was a little bit too many set-piece moments. You know, it's very nice to have one or two really big campaign-defining moments. For example, in Modern Warfare 3, the collapse of the Eiffel Tower, that is a very, very good cinematic moment. But Black Ops tried to shoehorn one of them in every single level, and it just got a little bit too much, a little bit too melodramatic as well. And the ending in Black Ops as well, fighting on the underground submarine base and then coming up to the surface to find all this rock music and the US Navy there, it was a little bit too much. So in this initial category, story mode, I've got to give the victory to Infinity Ward. Right, let's move very swiftly on to weapon balance. Weapon balance is a very, very sore point for Treyarch, because in the last two games, and I am running from, say, the modern Call of Duties, from Call of Duty 4 onwards. Now, you might say that's a bit unfair because there are 3 Infinity War games and 2 Treyarch games, but if I included Call of Duty 3 into it, Treyarch would lose most, because Call of Duty 3 is the worst Call of Duty ever. Just terrible. It's a terrible game. So what I decided to do is just go from COD 4 onwards. Now, that means I'm going to have to concentrate on World at War and Black Ops for Treyarch. Now, in World at War, the vast majority of people in that game use the MP40, and I've said this a lot of times. You could go into a ground war game of 18 people, and 12 to 13 of them would be using the MP40, and that just goes to show how ridiculously overpowered that weapon was, in comparison to every other game, because it's fine having high damage weaponry. Modern Warfare 3 and Modern Warfare 2 have very high damage weaponry, but overall, the vast majority of weapons are balanced very well. What Treyarch seems to struggle with is one or two god guns rising above the field and dominating, and that was exactly the same in Black Ops 2. No, in Black Ops, sorry, not Black Ops 2. With the FAMAS and the AUG. I mean, the FAMAS had the same damage as the Commando, but massively superior rate of fire. It was very, very accurate. It was very, very early unlocked, so... And the thing with the COD point system as well, as you didn't have to rank up your weapon like you do in Modern Warfare 3, people just went out and bought the best 2 attachments straight away. So what you managed to see in Black Ops was not just people using the MP40, but people using pretty identical FAMASs. So using FAMAS with extended mags or dual mags with a red dot sight with a silencer and very little else. So you would walk into a ground war lobby, and not only would about 12 people using a FAMAS, 6 of the FAMASs would be identical. And when that happens, you can just see that the game isn't balanced very well, because what you want to go into a ground war lobby and you want to see 16 weapons getting used. Obviously you can't expect to see 18 completely different weapons, because obviously there will be some overlap, but you want to see 10 minimum weapons. You don't want to see 16 people using the same weapon or the AUG and the FAMAS. It's just not a fun game to play after a while. So Treyarch really, really struggle with that. Now, Infinity Ward, this is one of the areas they do very, very well. The vast majority of their weapons, if you go back all the way to COD 4, yes, they have the MP5, the M60, the ACR in Modern Warfare 2, and the FMJs in Modern Warfare 3, but these aren't game dominators. These aren't weapons that are slightly better, but not significantly better, like in the FAMAS in Black Ops and the MP40 in World at War. Sorry, I'll think of my Call of Duty in the end. Because what you can argue is, whilst Modern Warfare 2, 3, COD 4 have these weapons that are slightly powerful, they're not game breakers. They aren't the FAMAS. They're not one of these weapons that 90% of people will use. So you can get away in Modern Warfare 2 with using the ACR, with using the TAR, with using the SCAR, with using the MP5, with using the UMP. You know, there are a lot of good weapons out there. One or two weapons may rise slightly above them, but they're not as crushing in their dominance as the Treyarch weapon balancing. So, once again, unfortunately, I'm going to have to give... Well, not unfortunately. Once again, I'm going to have to give the victory in the weapon balance to Infinity Ward, because whilst they have their problems, and they've had their problems in Modern Warfare 3 with the FMJs, the vast majority of their weapons are very, very nicely balanced, and it's not like in Treyarch games where you just get 1 or 2 weapons, dominate the field, and all the rest of the weapons pretty much suck. So I'll move on now to perk balance. Now, perk balance is pretty tightly linked with weapon balance, because depending on how powerful the weapons are, really depends on what you can do and what you can tweak with your perk balance. But I'm going to talk again about Treyarch first. Treyarch, again, seem to struggle with their perk balancing. For example, the main example of this is Juggernaut and Stopping Power in World at War, because, like I've said, the vast majority of people use the MP40, and because the MP40 was so powerful, you could get away without using Stopping Power on it. So you would see a lot of people use the MP40 with extended mags and Juggernaut, and it got so boring to run into 10 people using that class of game in a ground war. So World at War, they really struggled with this, and unfortunately in Black Ops they struggled as well, because Ghost had virtually no competition in the first perk tier. And I did a video about this about 6 months ago where I just talked this through for about 30 minutes, so I can't spend that long on it this time. But when you just look at Flak Jacket, all these are the perk 1 perks. They are decent, but they are nowhere near as good as Ghost was, because Ghost managed to hide you from UAV, from the other people on the radar, and it didn't punish you at all in terms of gun skill, because the perks like Sleight of Hand, Steady Aim were perk 2 perks, so you could be stealthy and just as good in a gunfight, and that is not a fair exchange at all, because it just enabled you to dominate. And especially when you linked the Ghost and the Silence FAMAS together, people would just become wraiths, and they become so hard to find and so hard to kill. It would just become a real noob fest, and that's what I really don't like about Black Ops, because it's a good game in many areas, but too many people used Ghost FAMAS for my liking. Unfortunately, perk balance is where Infinity Ward also come crumbling down, because whilst they get their weapon balance quite well, the main instance of them ballsing up their perk balance, in my opinion, is Modern Warfare 2, because in Modern Warfare 2 you had the most annoying perk ever, which in my opinion is One Man Army. And not only did Infinity Ward put One Man Army into the game, they refused to patch it. So for the entirety of this game's life cycle, and it's still happening now if you go and play the game, you see people at the back of the map with a noob tube, firing them off randomly across the map, going 20-1 because you can't get near them. And because they run Scavenger and they run Claymores, and Scavenger can replenish explosives, and One Man Army is so fast to replenish explosives, you would just get a torrent of grenades, of flashes, of noob tubes, of RPGs, and it would just become ridiculous. You would get noob tubed so many times in that game, and that was due to the crappy perk balance. They really did drop the ball with their perk balance, and I have to say in Modern Warfare 3 they've done pretty much the same thing with Assassin. Now, Assassin protects you from about 3 things too many, because I did a video about this as well not too long ago, and I wrote an article for a forum about this, about how Assassin seems to protect you from everything. It protects you from Marksman Pro, it protects you from EMP, it protects you from counter UAV, it protects you from UAV, it protects you from heartbeat sensors, it protects you from portable radar. All of these things, 6, 7, 8 options you have to detect people, 1 perk deals with, and that is too many. It's far too many. So I have to admit, whilst Treyarch are struggling in their perk balance, I have to say One Man Army broke Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2 is a broken game, and that is quite a lot due to the really bad perk balance. So whilst Treyarch's perk balance isn't brilliant, it is better than Infinity Ward's in my opinion, because whilst Ghost was annoying, it didn't break the game as One Man Army did, because One Man Army really did break Modern Warfare 2 in half. It was a terrible perk. But so that's currently 2-1 to Infinity Ward, I think. So I'm going to move on next to maps. Now, Infinity Ward are pretty good on their maps. They do 90% very good maps, and some of the best Call of Duty maps and some of the best first-person shooter maps in history have been in Infinity Ward games. For example, Crash, Overgrown, Invasion, Shipment. These are very good maps that people look back to fondly. I mean, Overgrown and Crash were reused in Modern Warfare 2, and it's highly likely that a map like Invasion, a map like Favela, will get used again in Modern Warfare 3 in the future. So Modern Warfare 3, Modern Warfare 2 and COD 4 did have very good maps. However, unfortunately, Infinity Ward do drop the ball every now and again, and there are a couple that I want to point you out to here. Estate is a very bad map. The spawns are so uneven. I mean, in one spawn you could just hop onto a wall and RPG or well, I can't even remember what the other launcher was, but you could RPG the enemy spawn and they couldn't attack you back. I mean, how imbalanced was that? I mean, that map was based on the house of a games developer, so you know that map is not designed to be balanced, it's designed to be showy, and you could tell it when you played that map. It was, especially when you were attacking the estate building itself from the bottom of the hill, that was a very tough spawn to do well on. So they really did balls that map up. And one map that has to get mentioned here is Downturn. Downturn is the worst map I have ever played on in any game. It is atrocious. It's an atrocious map. It's ugly, it's cluttered, the spawns are terrible, the objectives are really awkwardly located, it's terrible for point streaks, it's just awful. There are so many nooks and crannies to camp in. You really have to get lucky to get a good streak on there. It is a terrible map. Actually, me and my mates who I party up with, we have an unwritten rule never to vote for Downturn, and I don't think I've played it in the last 2 months. That is how much people hate it. I mean, mediocre maps in Modern Warfare 3 will get 10 or 11 votes when Downturn is the other choice. That is how bad Downturn is. But I have to say, overall, Infinity Ward are very good on their maps. Treyarch also have 1 or 2 really good maps. For example, Summit. Summit is the only snow map in Call of Duty history that is good. I mean, when you look at every other snow map in the game, they are bad maps. Summit is the one snow map that really nails it down, so they deserve a lot of credit for that. Also, Cliffside. Cliffside is a map which, if you actually looked at it, you wouldn't think it would work, because you'd think that just snipers would battle off and they'd shut out the map completely. But Cliffside, it was remade into Hazard in Black Ops, if you were unsure about that. But Cliffside is another fantastic map that I really enjoy. And another good thing with Treyarch is their interactive scenery when they're in maps. They had zip lines and elevators and traps and destroyable snow bridges, and they had all of these things. And these things, whilst they're not that core to the map, they're just so interesting to play around with. They are really fun little, they're not really gimmicks, but fun little additions to maps that you can enjoy, and that is something that Infinity Ward never seem to bother with, so that's extra points for Treyarch there. However, the one thing that really does pull Treyarch back is their map aesthetics. Map aesthetics are so important, because especially if you spend a lot of time playing Call of Duty, some people spend 20, 30, 40 days gameplay playing this game. You want to be playing in an atmosphere that looks nice, and this is one of the problems with Treyarch. 90% of Treyarch's maps are dull places to be. They are grey, brown, black, dark green, dark blue, horrible rainy, grey, swampy places, and after about 10 playthroughs you are bored witless playing them. They are horrible maps to look at. Now this is a real shame, because Treyarch have shown several times that they can design very good maps. Most of the dull maps to look at are very interesting maps to play, and that is a shame as well, because you're like, oh yeah, Zoo for example. Zoo is a quite interesting map to play, but that map to look at, it's abhorrent, it's awful. After about 3 playthroughs, you never want to see that map again. It's disgusting to look at, because it's all dark green, dark grey, dark blue, black, grim skies, cloudy, overcast. It's just a horrible things to look at. And I know it's a war game, but come on, can we not have some wars on Jamaican islands? Or, somewhere sunny, somewhere bright, a beach, a nice bright city centre. And I understand you can go too far, like the Carnival map in Modern Warfare 2, but come on Treyarch. It's the one thing that's really holding you back. And I would be prepared to give you victory in this round if it wasn't for the horribleness of your map aesthetic. So I'm going to give this one as a tie, because whilst Infinity Ward have got the history of all these great maps, they've got a history of some stinkers as well. And I've mentioned a couple, Estate and Downturn are just shocking maps. But whilst Treyarch do make the odd good map, do bring in all of these interactive scenery. Their general maps just look too ugly to win. So this is going to be a tie. Right, I'm going to talk about innovation now. Innovation is quite a broad topic, but it really relies on and really bases its judgment on what new ideas certain game developers have brought to the Call of Duty series. Now, I'm going to start this one with Infinity Ward, because Infinity Ward really did introduce perks to Call of Duty. Now, COD 4 was the first game that really went to introduce perks and creator classes and all this sort of thing to the Call of Duty series. Now, I have to say they did it very, very well, because perks are a lot more complicated than just having no perks at all. It's a lot more difficult to balance. It's a lot more difficult to balance weapons, because certain perks put more of an impact on certain weapons. So whilst one perk may balance one weapon nicely, the same perk on a different weapon could result in that weapon becoming vastly overpowered. So it's very, very tricky to balance them. But introducing perks to the series, creator classes, you know, strike packages as well. I really like strike packages in Modern Warfare 3. They're a very, very new thing. They're innovative and they're interesting to play with and mess around with. And that's something that Treyarch haven't really kept up with, you know. The one thing that Treyarch have done is they have bought great leaderboards to the Call of Duty scenery. And you might think, leaderboards, come on, that's not important at all. But if you look at the Modern Warfare 3 leaderboards, you will see how much you miss the Black Ops ones. Because the Black Ops ones were score per minute based and not simply how much time you played the game based. They were based on objective captures and flag defense and bomb plants and all of these things. Modern Warfare 3, I have no idea why, but they've just gone back to the kill-only based leaderboard. And that is, it's a shame, because Treyarch obviously put a lot of work into their leaderboards, and they are really, really good. Their leaderboards are fantastic, very nearly perfect. And for some reason, Infinity Ward decided to drop them completely from Modern Warfare 3. And that's a great shame. However, the leaderboards aren't enough to bring it back, because unfortunately, the way it's worked out, Treyarch has been more of a reactionary developer. For example, perks are bought in COD 4. World of War has to be changed to incorporate perks. Modern Warfare 2, all of these new kill streaks are bought in. Black Ops has to change itself to bring in all of these new perks. All of these new kill streaks, sorry. In Modern Warfare 3, strike packages are bought in. I bet you any money that strike packages are bought in into Black Ops. And while they have done some nice little things like wager matches and all of these sort of stuff, in the end, Infinity Ward does win the innovation, because the vast amount of stuff they have brought to this game series is really far too much than Treyarch can cope with. So that one is a victory for Infinity Ward. However, in this one, the next category, post-launch support, I think there's only one winner. Infinity Ward, they are just, in my opinion, they are the worst game developer out there on any platform and any genre in terms of post-launch support. Let's just go back to COD 4. COD 4, they did not patch Frag Times 3 grenades. Frag Times 3 was a huge problem. I don't think people remember how big a problem this was. Blame Truth wrote, designed t-shirts saying F you Frag Times 3, and he sold hundreds of them, thousands of them. It really was a massive, massive problem, and I think people have blocked this out of their memory due to the nostalgia of COD 4. I mean, COD 4 was an excellent game, but one thing it never got was post-launch support, and this was exacerbated in Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare 2 is a pile of vomit of a game because of the complete failure of Infinity Ward to support that game. Massive, massive glitches like the Javelin glitch stayed in that game for months and were exploited by thousands and thousands of people, and Infinity Ward could do nothing about it. It was just so bad. And we've seen similar problems in Modern Warfare 3. In Modern Warfare 3, to be fair, Infinity Ward are putting a lot more effort into their post-launch support, and that's really, really reassuring. However, you've still got these massive problems with the death streaks. The death streaks are just terrible, terrible things, and Infinity Ward cannot see it. You've got people hiding in rocks. You've got really overpowered weapons. You've got the Type 95, which is still overpowered. You've got the ACR, which is still overpowered. You've got lag compensation. Lag compensation is awful. It's awful. And they've done 3 or 4 patches on it, and it's made it worse. It's got worse since they've patched it. And all of this just points to the fact that Infinity Ward are incapable of supporting a game. They can't do it. They seriously can't. It's been proven 2 times, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be proven a 3rd time, that Infinity Ward can't support their games. In comparison, Treyarch are excellent. They are excellent at supporting their game. World at War, they dropped the ball a little bit, but Black Ops, wow, they certainly won our trust back on Black Ops. They were patching things we had never heard of, and when I say we, I mean the Call of Duty community. They released lists of what they'd patched, and they will say, like, patch the rock glitch in Hazard, patch the jump glitch in Hazard, and you're like, what are these things? I've never heard of these before. I have never seen anyone do that. And when you're a Call of Duty commentator, playing Call of Duty at least 4 or 5 times a week, and you hear about these glitches being patched, and you haven't seen them, that is a tremendous effort. Unfortunately, Treyarch are a little bit too slow on patching things like Ghost and the FAMAS, and that's the one thing that means I can't give them a perfect 10 in this category. But what I can say is, for the vast majority of map exploits and glitches and lag problems and hacks and fixes, Treyarch are not just a country mile, they are light speeds ahead, light miles, they are miles. Treyarch are exploring far off galaxies. Infinity Ward still haven't gotten off Earth yet. That is how far ahead Treyarch are. Infinity Ward really need to pick it up, because they are losing the trust of the hardcore community because of this. I mean, one of the things that post-launch support does for you is it earns you the trust of the players who will continually buy the game. Unfortunately, what I think's happened is Call of Duty's gone a little bit too far to the casual community now, and that's all well and good for the next couple of Call of Duties, but when the casual community starts to get bored, it's the core community that'll keep your game running, and I think Infinity Ward have completely forgotten that, because every innovation they bring in, like death streaks, like the newbie kill streaks, they are all designed to screw the core community over, and their lack of post-launch support, also does this. So I can see Infinity Ward games really getting hit by the core community, because they can't support their game. There's just something about it. I don't know whether they don't want to, or they're just incapable. They just don't do it. I mean, another very good example of this is, if you go back and play Black Ops now, Black Ops is fine. You can play that easily. If you go back and play Modern Warfare 2, that game is hacked to pieces. It is hacked to smithereens, and Infinity Ward can't stop it. They just can't stop it. Treyarch can keep up to date with World at War, keep up to date with Black Ops, and design Black Ops 2 all at the same time, keeping everything fine. Infinity Ward, on the other hand, can poorly patch Modern Warfare 3 and nothing else. They flop on Modern Warfare 2 and they flop on COD 4, and it's going to catch up with them eventually. They might think they can get away with it, but there's only so long that the Call of Duty community will sit there and take their lack of action. So that's pretty worrying for them, but that's a crushing victory for Treyarch in the post-launch support. Extras is the final category I'm going to talk with. Now, I appreciate this is a long video, but I wanted to make this quite thorough. So extras is everything that isn't tagged on to the main story and the main multiplayer, because the vast majority of people who go out there and buy a Call of Duty buy it for their multiplayer. I buy it to enjoy the single player and then go online. Things like zombies and Spec Ops are what I class as extras. I also class DLC as extras, so anything outside the core game. And I have to say, this one is another crushing victory for Treyarch, because let's just have a look at Infinity Ward first. Infinity Ward are one of those games developers that would rather launch 3 more DLC packages than patch their core game. You have that idea with them that they would much rather try and screw you for £5 more than get their game perfect, and that is a big problem. They release too much DLC. They release DLC which is just terrible, like the map Carnival, one of the worst maps in Call of Duty history, because they just don't seem to play test, patch their game, and that is a real problem. So the extras, whilst I like Spec Ops, for example, Spec Ops is a very, very interesting game mode, and it was interesting in Modern Warfare 2, and it's still pretty interesting in Modern Warfare 3. I have to say, in the extras department, Treyarch win hands down. Treyarch don't release so many bits of DLC. They will release 3 or 4 packs of very, very concentrated DLC with zombie maps. Zombie maps in a DLC is wonderful, and zombies is why Treyarch wins this hands down. Because zombies... sorry, I'll get my words out there. I had a bit of a block throat there, but zombies, not only is it a great thing to enjoy and great fun, it has a wonderful storyline, it's constantly updated through DLC. I mean, some of the DLC maps, they are huge. For example, the Moon DLC map, Resurrection, how big was that map? The Shino Newman map, I mean, these are huge zombie maps. These take a lot of development, a lot of story chat. I mean, the one, for example, the Snow one, when you had Sarah Michelle Gellar and George Romero and all these people do a zombie map, how cool was that? It was a very, very cool idea, and this is something that Infinity Ward just can't keep up with. This is another crushing victory for Treyarch, because let's just talk about Call of Duty Elite. Call of Duty Elite has been butchered. It's been butchered because they're trying to back out of it now, but it was implied that with Elite, content will get released every month from the first month. And Elite is so buggy and so finicky, they can't do it. Activision and Infinity Ward can't do it because they've cocked up Elite so badly. And this is just one of those things under extras. Infinity Ward are so desperate to get you to buy an Elite Premium membership and get you to buy this DLC. They sacrifice parts of their game to do it. And this is why Infinity Ward get brought down, because they do a lot of the core things so well, but they ruin parts of their game through just inability to act or just negligence in some cases, and it's really, really disappointing. So that's another crushing victory for Treyarch. Right, this is the time you have all been looking forward to. This is the time where I announce my victor and my personal favourite game developer in the Call of Duty arena. Now, I've said a lot of positives and negatives for both games developers, and I have to say that I don't think any of them is perfect. There are several areas that both of these developers can work on and improve, but my final choice as my favourite developer really rests on what games developer I can see fixing their mistakes. Because whilst I admit that both of them aren't perfect, there is only one games developer that I can realistically see fixing their mistakes, and that is Treyarch. Because Treyarch have shown with Black Ops 2, and with to a lesser extent World at War, but especially with Black Ops, that they are prepared to listen, to patch their game, to try and improve it, to listen to feedback, to just take in all parts of the community. Infinity Ward really lost their last chance for me with Modern Warfare 3. They could have scrapped Elite, they could have scrapped all this crappy season of content rubbish, and what they could have done is put every ounce of their being into making Modern Warfare 3 as good as it possibly could. That is what Treyarch did with Black Ops 2, but unfortunately, for some reason, Infinity Ward didn't do it with Modern Warfare 3. I mean, just imagine if they had used the people or the developers set aside to work on Elite to focus on Modern Warfare 3, how much of a difference would that have made? It would have made a massive difference. What you basically, Call of Duty Elite, the stat tracking, a lot of that was offered by Treyarch as standard in the Black Ops leaderboards. So if Treyarch can get those leaderboards out and still do a fantastic game, why can't Infinity Ward do that? It just seems that every single time we sit here with an Infinity Ward game, the same problems come up. The overpowered perks, really good weapon balance, but overpowered perks, and just some so frustrating glitches, like for example the one-man army, the explosives in Modern Warfare 2, the lag compensation, the dual wield, akimbo machine pistols in Modern Warfare 3. There's always something that ruins it. And I've used this analogy before, but I'm going to use this again. Infinity Ward for me is like a really well-baked cake. It's brilliant, it's fantastic. Some chef has made this wonderful cake and then someone sneezes all over it. That cake is 90% perfect, but you are not going to touch it because that 10% is just diabolical. That's what Modern Warfare 2 was, and unfortunately that's what I think Modern Warfare 3 is going to be, because everybody knows what the problems are with Modern Warfare 3, just the same as everyone knows what the problems are with Modern Warfare 2, and Infinity Ward just seem incapable of patching it. So that is why I have gone for Treyarch, because to be perfectly honest, I think that Infinity Ward has the potential to be better than Treyarch, but I think they will constantly fail to reach their potential, because they aren't prepared to patch their game. They aren't prepared to listen to community feedback. All they do is set up their games for the casual community, and that is so easy to see with the flashy death streaks. You know, Dead Man's Hand. Dead Man's Hand. You don't even have to aim in Dead Man's Hand. You just press one button and you explode like a javelin missile. How newbie is that? And if you're going for a Moab and you get killed by a Dead Man's Hand, or you get panic knifed, and that's happened to me before, you're going to be really pissed off. But Infinity Ward don't care, because Infinity Ward, as soon as you seem to have bought their game, they just want to push you DLC, and that is the thing that really separates them from Treyarch. Treyarch, until the last day of Black Ops, you know, the day before Modern Warfare 3 got released, they were still patching their game. In a month's time, Infinity Ward will not be patching Modern Warfare 3. That is my prediction, because they just seem to be unable to do it. Whether it's through lack of desire or just lack of capabilities, they cannot patch their games very well at all. And when it's such a frenetic, close, connection-based first-person shooter like a Call of Duty is, you need a games developer who will be ready and prepared to patch and to tweak and to change to make sure that game's as good as possible. So that is why I have gone for Treyarch in the end. You guys may disagree with me, and this is a completely personal choice, but sit down and seriously think about what I'm saying here. Who would you trust to look after something for you? Would you trust the really talented guy who can't be bothered, or would you trust the slightly less talented guy who's going to give you 110% every step of the way? Of course I go for Treyarch, and that is why I go for Treyarch, because whilst Treyarch may have some big flaws, I am confident that they want to improve and work through them, and I am not confident that Infinity Ward want to do that. So that is why, in the end, while it was a very, very tight decision, Treyarch win, because they are prepared to push and improve, and I don't think Infinity Ward are prepared to do the same. So guys, thank you for sitting here and listening to me. This is a really, really long video, but I appreciate you sitting here and listening to me, because I really, really enjoy commentating this. So guys, I sincerely hope you enjoyed it too. If you did, please rate and comment as always, because when a video takes this long, it's fantastic to see it get a positive response. So guys, once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a fantastic day.